Hey folks, and welcome to HOVTV. Today we're going to kill the Nightmare Pilgrim. The Nightmare Pilgrim is located on Voss, which is located in hut space. Once you arrive on Voss, take the Outpost Skyline Skyhopper Speeder. Once you get off the taxi, head east until you see a large satellite dish type thing. Stay to the right of this satellite dish and keep going until you get to the Nightmare Pilgrim haunt. All your buddies should be there waiting for you. Generally, you'll have 3 tanks, 3 healers, and the rest DPS to fill out a 16-man group. Before you start the fight, your raid leader should hand out an Alpha Wave inhibitor, which we like to call Scooby Snacks. Be sure to eat your Scooby Snack before the fight begins, or you'll die almost instantly. Now, this fight actually consists of 2 bosses, the Nightmare Pilgrim himself and his interdimensional dog, which is called the Thing from the Stars, or Fluffy, as we like to affectionately call him. 2 of the tanks will be on Fluffy, 1 will be on the Nightmare Pilgrim. The 2 tanks on Fluffy will swap aggro back and forth depending on a debuff they get. Healers should be aware of which tank has aggro at any given moment because Fluffy does a lot of damage. Of course, the Nightmare Pilgrim also does a lot of damage, so a healer will have to be assigned to that tank as well. Once the fight begins, all the DPSers will start out on Fluffy. Again, Fluffy has a nasty front cone, so stay behind him. Also, DPSers, you should hold back on your really heavy-hitting attacks for a few seconds to give the tanks a chance to build a hate lead, because you don't want this guy turning around and running into the raid group. Throughout the fight, there will be various circles that spawn on the ground. Unless it's a sorcerer healing circle, stay out of them. They do a lot of damage, and this is a fight where there's a lot of damage being dealt out, so you don't want to take any that you don't have to. In general, ranged DPS should try to stand somewhere around the boulder that you see in the middle and slightly to the right of the screen. Melee, of course, should be just behind the boss. However, his hitbox is pretty big, so you don't have to stand too close. Now, like most boss fights, this one goes in phases. The first phase will start a couple of minutes in. There will be a couple of clues that you'll have that a phase is beginning. We'll call this the shield phase. It's very important to stop DPS as soon as a shield phase begins, because you will very likely kill yourself if you don't. During the shield phase, the Nightmare Pilgrim puts up a reflective shield that reflects damage back at whoever hits it. Fluffy, in turn, will be dropping a debuff called Blood Mark on a number of raid members. He doesn't drop these all at once. They drop kind of at random over the course of several seconds, so don't assume that you're safe. Always check your buff bar. Now what happens is, if you attack Fluffy with Blood Mark, you'll also get reflected damage and die pretty much instantly. The Blood Mark debuff looks like a red bloody skull on a black background. It's hard to miss. You might also have a beam of white light appear above your head if you've been hit with Blood Mark, but this doesn't always happen and it depends somewhat on your graphic settings, so always check your buff bar. Now, when a shield phase is beginning, the raid leader will call it out through vent, but because of vent lag, you can't really rely on that. So you need to learn how to recognize when a shield phase is beginning. What you should try to do is position your camera so that you can see the Nightmare Pilgrim in your frame. Now, for tanks and for melee DPS, this can be challenging, but usually possible if you zoom your camera back far enough. Right before a shield phase begins, the Nightmare Pilgrim will do a sweep around hit. He does a lot of these, so not every time he does it means there's a shield phase beginning, but he always does it before a shield phase. He'll do the sweep around hit, and then do a knockback that knocks back everyone around him. That knockback is what you need to be looking for. It's very telling and it's the only time it happens. So as soon as you see that knockback, stop DPS. The shield will go up right after the knockback. Now, there's actually another thing you need to be doing during the shield phase. Fluffy will be attacking the tank with an attack called Gore over and over again. You need to interrupt that as soon as you see it. Now, once the Nightmare Pilgrim's shield goes down, wait for a second, double check your debuff bar, make sure you don't have Blood Mark. If you don't have Blood Mark, keep DPSing Fluffy. If you do have Blood Mark, switch your DPS over to the Nightmare Pilgrim. Now, throughout the fight, the Nightmare Pilgrim's going to be hitting the entire raid group with a hit called Mental Assault. This hits for a fair amount of damage, so if you're a DPSer, help out your healers by using your bubbles and any free self-heals you have. Battle reses will generally be saved for tanks, so if you die and you're a DPSer or a healer, release and run back. Now, something that it's important to know about shield phases is that if you have a dot on the Nightmare Pilgrim, it won't kill you as long as you applied that dot before the shield went up. However, if you do a fire and forget attack like orbital bombardment, That could kill you if it fires off when the shield goes up. So always save your fire and forget attacks for the very first bit of the first pull, and then immediately after the end of every shield phase, because you'll know you'll be safe from another shield phase for a while. Depending on how fast your DPS burns, you'll go through several more shield phases. Once you get towards the end, your raid leader may ask you to switch targets. This is because the bosses have to die in a certain order and at certain percents. Otherwise, they become invulnerable or do a soft enrage and things just get messy. So just pay attention to what your raid leader is telling you to do and switch your target appropriately. The Nightmare Pilgrim drops some black hole gear, black hole comms, campaign boots, and you have to kill them a few times to get your Aerotech Coral Speeder. Not to mention the satisfaction of knowing you have made the galaxy a safer place. That's it for this HOV video guide. I hope it's been helpful for you, and check out our website hov-swtor.com for more information.